Why does Michigan get a cakewalk to the Frozen Four though? Any Any thoughts? I know a lot of people are saying that it does seem like it's a little bit easier for Michigan in their regional so far, and not having to go through the gauntlet. Maybe that's it. Could that be a Minnesota bias too, in terms of saying, "Boy, you've seen these teams and you know how tough it is to play against the St. Clouds and Mankato's of the world." Obviously, Mankato's not exactly what it was last year or the year before, but yeah, I mean something about ending the season 2 years in a row with a lot of the same guys on the team. That's got to stick in their brains a little bit. And the Gophers have been outscored 9-1 in those two games. They've been known to kind of change the Gophers' results in terms of especially how well that they play and how dominant I think the teams have been over the past few years. And Mankato's made them look anything but that type of team. But any thoughts on why Michigan might be getting a little bit more favorable of a regional as a one seed?
Well, I wouldn't know if I'd say that having to go to a regional in Penn State's backyard that has Penn State as the easiest regional. Because, I mean, that's always a difficult thing. You're basically playing a road game there. On the other hand, they do get a little bit of an easier just because of a first-round matchup because Quinnipiac can't play Colgate, who's the 15 seed, because they're both ECAC members. So that certainly helps them. I think Tech's an interesting team. They have NCAA tournament experience. They match up well with Michigan. I don't think it's as easy as whoever did the question said it for Michigan as far as the regional goes. It just might be just not as familiar with the teams, which is fine.
Gotcha. Yeah, and Jack, obviously, I think having played the game and taking a lot of time off to Jupe's question there, a lot of time off. These Gophers teams have taken some time off, and obviously you could see they've played one game in the last however many days. I mean, they haven't played a lot in the last month or so. Can you speak to playing a team that either to being the team that hasn't played a lot in recent weeks, or to kind of playing against that type of team? I mean, what's that kind of like, kind of gearing back up to get ready for obviously one of the most important games of your season after having not played a lot?
It's a good question. Yeah, it's tough because you can't simulate that, right? You can go down to Rochester and you can do a scrimmage game, but you cannot simulate the real thing. And it was kind of evident last night too. And a lot of people saw that. We looked a little bit sluggish, a little bit tired. I seemed to tilt one way for quite a bit of time. I think Penn State, that's tough too for like a team that is kind of get up and go and get pucks deep, get pucks on net from anywhere. Are they going to be able to find that game right out of the gate? We'll see. And I think for the Gophers, it goes back to, like you said, we didn't have our legs, but we were able to play a really good team the last game of the season. So I'm feel confident about that. But that Penn State Michigan Tech, it's not the sexiest matchup in the world at all. But I just don't think it's a walk in the park really for Michigan either.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true, and I do think it is some of the Minnesota the recent results, and even just this season too. I mean, Minnesota struggled against St. Cloud, lost a game on Friday, and won a game in overtime back at Mariucci, and then a win and a loss against Minnesota State too. So even though both teams aren't up at obviously very number one like they've been in a lot of recent years, they've given the Gophers a lot of fits. But reading through Veach's question, friend of the show, Duluth correspondent for MNCAA, Max Veach in the chat here. Minnesota playing more of a road game in their first matchup than Michigan is what the North Dakota fan base holding more than half the tickets. So do you think a lot of North Dakota fans are gonna show up and jeer the Gophers through that first game or second game? Obviously, if they get there.
I think the big difference is going to be it's less North Dakota. There'll be North Dakota fans there. I covered that Sioux Falls Regional in 2018, where it was St. Cloud State, Mankato, and UMD, and North Dakota missed and Minnesota missed. Sorry, Jack. But that was like it was a weird mix of, you had all the teams. No one had like the majority fan base. And there were some North Dakota fans, but there weren't a ton of North Dakota fans. It's obviously Fargo's closer than Sioux Falls, so it might be more incentive to stick around. But I'm kind of curious to see how that ticket situation is, because so many of them have been sold with the belief that North Dakota was going to be in the tournament, and since they're not, Do they sell the tickets? Do they go empty? Do people show up?
Yeah, I mean, Gopher fans in the chat. I mean, if you had tickets to a game, I mean, let's say the regional was being hosted at the X. Not really realistic right now, but if you had tickets and North Dakota was there and the Gophers weren't, would you go to specifically Hoppy? Hoppy's number one. I do have a feeling that a lot of Gopher fans would do that. I mean, it hasn't, obviously the rivalry hasn't been the same since they don't play each other every year. But I think in a lot of fans' hearts, especially the fans that saw the end of the WCHA, those games were so tough. I mean, not the end, but I mean, the last 10, 15 years were just ultra competitive, especially. And I think that definitely has got to stick with a lot of people, right?
I mean, I got to weigh in on this one because I took Isha, my co-host on the Sota pod, who is Canadian and has not really experienced college hockey. Like, kind of thought college hockey was a joke compared to junior. And his first game was North Dakota at 3M Arena at Mariucci.
Oh,
Still feels weird to say. He came out of that game. He's like, I'm going to be like a Bemidji State fan. Like, they're so like harmless and they got a beaver as their mascot. Like, why wouldn't I? Came out of that game like more sure than ever that he is a Gopher fan and that he absolutely hates North Dakota. I think that like it sucks. I wish that there was like regularly scheduled matchups with them like the old WCHA days, but I personally think that playing less, those games get that much more intensified. Like people show up and they're like, I paid 2x what this ticket should cost. I'm going to make sure people know I'm here. But I don't know. Maybe you guys have a different thought. But real quick, anyone that's been chiming in already, thank you so much. We'll keep on throwing in the comments, throwing up any questions. Let us know what you guys are drinking too. I'm actually drinking our collaboration with Lupulin, Tourney Flow. Can art turned out beautiful, and I can promise you, if you like IPAs, the beer turned out beautiful as well.
Is that Jack's likeness on the can there?
Yeah,
it's got some flow going. Looks like it. Looks like it could be.
I think we can work that out. That's pretty good. Maybe in next year's edition, we can figure that out. And I mean, hey, shout out. You can talk about it here in a second, Jack, but your boys take down the AA trophy. That was awesome. No one wanted Edina to win. No one. But anyone that's watching on Twitter right now, go over to YouTube right now, subscribe, start commenting there because you won't be able to comment in Twitter. But Jack, real quick for the Tourney Flow, tell us, like, what was it like for the boys to take that one in?
Pretty crazy. It was like the Edina was probably the only team in the tournament that we could have played in the championship where the fans were cheering for us. I was surprised about that when they announced the two teams and everybody was booing Edina. Everybody was loud from Minnetonka, and I was like, nice. This is a good change of pace. But it was good. I thought it was a kind of a mirror game. Like both teams were dead even in the state championship. We were chasing a little bit at times. And that was one of the few times that happened this year. And I think Edina played us perfectly, and we just had a few bounces go our way, which take what you can get, right? But unbelievable atmosphere, unbelievable group of guys. I was my 16-year-old self was very jealous of them, but my coach self very, very proud. So it's pretty funny.
Gosh, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, state tournament, right? I mean, we talk about it this time every year, just how big of a deal it is for so many people, and obviously being extremely connected to it as yourself, it's got to be just an amazing feeling.